So first of all, I want to thank Ora-Ora, Henry, Odili, and of course the Asia Society and the Arts Gallery Associations for these very privileged events to introduce two young, up-and-coming rising stars. um, Today we have Rose here and Janet there. And I can also feel as in a little bit of the background. So Ora, Henry was asking me, oh, what about hosting a talk? And this is also a very important time. Many things have been through in this city. And initially, we were kind of brainstorming, maybe Henry might do the moderations and but then in the end, we thought maybe it's more important to give this privileged time to you guys, to tell us a little bit more about what's the situation, what's the difficulties or the opportunities that's ahead of us. So we really want to be listeners for the next 30 minutes and to hear what you may want to say to us. And the title of this talk is Hong Kong Art, the new generation, the next generation. So this is more or less the framework of today's talk. And some of you may ask, like, why among all the talents, why do we pick Rose and Janet here? So a little bit of introduction. Janet currently is in her final year in HKBU AVA, the Academy of Visual Arts, and she is the president of the graduation show. So she is aspiring to be more in art administrations and curatorial practice, and she is at the moment handling over 100 young artists' works to put together this show. Hopefully it's not going to be virtual. Hopefully this will be something that we can all experience, and hopefully some of you in Hong Kong may be able to come. And then we have also Rose here. Rose is in our PhD program at the also the Academy of Visual Arts, and she is a practicing artist and graduated from CUHK Fine Arts. So we will learn more about her practice shortly. So maybe to start, I wanted maybe Janet to start talking about this image here. So every year, the graduation show team committee would try to think of an image or a kind of an identity as a way to kind of condense or distill the atmosphere of all the graduates. So I believe this is the image that you guys are working on. So maybe you can tell us from your committee, what's this all about?
Yeah, well, actually, this image is still a raw image. It is not finished. And a disclaimer, I did not take the photos. My team did. And actually, I think Hope made, Rose may feel the same way, is that it is kind of an image to talk about we are losing imagination, we are losing hope because of the very sensitive situation right now in Hong Kong and also around the world. So we kind of want to express our struggles, like what are we going to do without the protection of the school? What do we do after we break out of this barrier? So, but at the same time, we want to be more ambiguous because we don't want it to be too sensitive or to be too political. We kind of have like a self-censorship to this concept because, like, on one hand, because at the end of the day, we still have to ask for sponsorship for our graduation show. On the other hand, because this show is for the public as well as for all of the 100 graduates. So we want to remain kind of neutral for everyone to interpret their own meanings in this image. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And this is the image for Rose year. So Rose graduated from CUHK 2017. And would you like to also share something about this image?
Sure. So I graduated from Chinese University, the Department of Fine Arts, in 2017. And then the theme of our exhibition was "Nothing's Gonna Change My Love for You." So it is actually questioning what is contemporary art, and also, is there something that is eternal? Is there something that is forever there? And I think it actually relates to our age now, because even 2020, now, 3 years later, I still feel like I have a lot of questions about contemporary art as a practicing artist. And also, I think in terms of the political situation as well as the coronavirus now, we are feeling a kind of hopeless, and also we could not really imagine the future ahead of us. So I think it actually relates to the time now as well.
So it sounds quite pessimistic from these interpretations. But you also mentioned, maybe from your experience now, Rose, you have graduated from your bachelor degree a number of years ago. Maybe you can tell us a little bit of your journey. So you are now more established, and what made you to make up your mind to pursue this long career in arts, and also you're now doing a PhD?
I think during my bachelor years, actually a lot of confusion and also support from my colleagues and also artists, friends as well. But I think during the journey and also the process, there are a lot of questions about art itself, as well as the relation between art and society as well, that I was thinking about. And I think the reason why I want to pursue a PhD afterwards is that I think research is also important in terms of a practicing artist, because it provides you the ground with the social conditions as well as the political conditions of making art. And I think that is also important in terms of how you understand your age in practicing your art.
And so you mentioned about this notions of arts and society, and arts maybe having a role in the society, right? Maybe can you elaborate a little bit about this? And so you feel very pessimistic, but at the same time you are hopeful that art has a role in our society, right?
I would say that I'm still very hopeful, and I believe in the power of art in changing society. But I think the effect of art in terms of changing society is not immediate kind of effect. It is more embedded in the traditions and also in how we perceive our society from time to time, from generations to generations. Because I think there are questions that every generation faces. For example, like Jeanette mentioned, without the protection of the school, the university, the academy, what are we? And what do we do in terms of pursuing a career in Hong Kong as an artist? I think these are some of the questions that everybody faces when graduation is a point as like right in front of us.
Do you have something to share, Janet?
Well, I do think, like, as Rose has mentioned, art is they can change the society in long term, but to me, it is also about recording the society. Like, I think when artists do create an artwork, they are recording, like, the present in a very alternative perspective. So when the times come, when the artwork do become like history, then people can understand the history with an emotion, with an experience input, instead of just reading it from words without any other personal feelings in there. So I think it is very useful in creating, like, or capturing what I call maybe potential or alternative history. Yeah. I think there is an artist, like a sound artist called Felix Blumen. He do work a lot with soundscapes that record what is going on around him in the society. I think his works are quite interesting. So, like, I do draw some inspiration from him as well. Yeah.
And Rose, do you have some maybe artists that you really appreciate working in this regard?
I think just thinking about how art can change society, I think of the work by Natalie Lo Lai Lai. And she's a Hong Kong artist, and then she tried to think of the alternative of living through artistic practice, and she started agriculture and growing her own vegetations and food products. And I think it's a very interesting kind of artistic practice because it's not only about making an exhibition or some kind of publication, it's about the whole artistic practice and its relation with life.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, I'm also going to some of their farms tomorrow to start planting rice. It's about time. And so on one hand, we can go to Park and Shop and chase for the last bags of rice. Maybe we can also, like you said, in Lo Lai Lai, and many of the artists in Hong Kong is also working very much about how do we think about consumptions and the local productions and way of living. And absolutely, there's much that we can learn from that. Okay, well, maybe on the note of inspirations, maybe it's also interesting from, I think maybe some of the audience of Asian society, they may not be from Hong Kong. So maybe they are also interested, well, what is the edge, or maybe what young artists in Hong Kong maybe differ than in other regions or places. And maybe to look into this, can we kind of maybe look at your inspirations? Like what sparks you in your creations and what's your interest? And maybe we can distill a little bit of insights. How are Hong Kong artists identified ourselves, and what are the potentials in the future? Right? So this is an image from Rose. Would you maybe tell us a little bit about your inspiration in your work?
So I'm actually, besides a practicing artist, I also practice UK, or if you like, Cantonese opera, and I'm a performer. So I've been training and also performing through a decade ago. So I think it's very exciting in terms of how I see tradition and contemporary in a parallel line, and how I try to incorporate my experiences in Cantonese opera performances and practice in my artistic practice. So actually my doctoral degree my thesis is about towards an aesthetics and recontextualizing UK in Hong Kong. So it will be about how we see the aesthetics of UK in terms of situ, as a genre of situ, and also how there are common similarities and also differences in the region of Guangdong in terms of different genres.
Particularly, it is toward aesthetic and not about aesthetic.
I think aesthetics will be a very large project in terms of scope, to conduct in the 4-year doctoral degree. So I'm thinking the next scholarly project might be about the aesthetics of UK. But I think for now it's more about how I see the different experiences in terms of a practicing artist and also a performer of UK.
And we have also one more image. This is from your CUHK show, and this was also in a few other shows, right? In the Chutlo, was it? Did you have other opportunities to show this work?
Actually, this is the only time that I showed his work in the graduation show. And this is actually a backstage of a UK performance. And then I reconstructed the backstage in a corner in the Art Museum of Chinese University. And the idea behind this is that it's not only a prop or a setup, I also perform in it. So my performance was about removing and also putting on makeup consecutively for 7 hours a day in the opening and closing ceremony and a few days of the exhibition. And I think the act of repeating is actually interesting in terms of how it inspired the kind of, in terms of practice, you have to repeat a gesture many, many times to master it. And I think it loses its meaning in the way. So I'm sort of questioning what is the practice of UK at that time.
You also had a work in 1A space, right? Can you maybe tell? We don't have an image here, but maybe you can expand a little bit. Yeah.
So the work in 1A space is actually part of a literature crossover visual art exhibition, and it was based on a poem by Xixi, And then at that time, it was exhibited in 1A Space last February or March. And actually, I created a 3-minute video of repeated falling of women. And then it was a question which also relates to Xi poem about the fate of women in the portrayal in UK.
Okay, great. And now I'll move to Janet. Now, this is the work that you wanted to talk a little bit about, right?
Yeah, because instead of very cultural, well, this is also cultural context, but I do draw a lot of inspiration from daily life. So this work is actually a collab work with two of my friends because we were in Germany, in Beijing, and in Hong Kong, I think the last summer, coincidentally, with different reasons. So, but at the same time, we do encounter difficulties in different places because of language, because we don't understand what people are talking about. So I do think like language, I never realized like language is so important to a person's sense of belonging. So this is why we created this work and why we deliberately choose not to put any captions on it, because unless you speak all 4 languages, because it was created with Mandarin, Cantonese, English, and German. So
this is part of the text.
yeah,
Maybe
it's part of the text.
too small for the screen, but so you intend to have 4 languages.
Yeah,
and
so
it's
unless
spoken
you speak,
in the work.
yeah, it's spoken in 4 languages. So unless you speak all 4 languages, you would not understand the whole pictures of what we were experiencing or what exactly were we talking about. So it's kind of like putting our experience to the audience as well, like making them feel that way as well. Yeah.
This is about sense of belonging, this work, you're saying.
Yeah, I do think this is about sense of belonging and also very personal experience on cultural differences and cultural shock as well. Yeah.
I think this notions of sense of belonging is also quite eminent in Hong Kong. It is very complex, right? The compositions and the histories and the state of mind. And maybe could you to elaborate a little bit about this sense of belonging in Hong Kong? And Rose, you said you have new feelings about Hong Kong over what Hong Kong had been through over the past months, right?
So I was born and raised in Hong Kong, and everything that I experienced, my families, my friends are all in Hong Kong. And I'm thinking that I don't have this sense of belonging since I was young to this place called Hong Kong. And I'm thinking, why is that? Is that because of education? Is that because of my perception towards sense of belonging? Is there something wrong with me? And then when I grew up and then I experienced the recent social chaos, and I think that the sense of belonging is quite a tricky term in terms of how they organize us as a group of young people, and also in terms of how they call this solidarity. And I'm still not in a very good position to answering this question, I think, because I think to me it's still a very complex issue in terms of sense of belonging. But I feel like I still want to stay in this place. I don't think it's a very good kind of solution to just go away if this place is not like before. Yeah.
So we start off saying, well, it seems quite quite a lot of despair, and you cannot see much hope. But in the end, you do have you're still hopeful, right? You feel like you can identify with the city even more with the recent incidents.
I think in times of chaos, actually, it sparks creativity. And then we see different artists using different kind of strategies to cope with their cycle and also mental status. And I think that is also interesting. So it is interesting actually now to stay in Hong Kong and see what happens and how to deal with it on both a personal and also a collective level.
Great. Janet?
Well, I am a person that doesn't have a very strong sense of belonging towards a place. My sense of belonging mainly comes from my families, actually. So I kind of have a feeling like when wherever my families go, then that place is my home. So like I'm not the kind of person that will have like a very strong identity crisis because I moved to somewhere, as long as I can adapt in that place and I can learn their languages. So like I said, I think languages is one of the main things that you can integrate yourself into the community, into the society. It's less about what color, because like at the end of the day, every person is the same, to be honest. Like I don't believe like I'm not racist. So I think you can integrate yourself into wherever you want as long as you work for it. So to me, if I choose to move out of Hong Kong or stay in Hong Kong, it would mainly be because if I can see opportunities or if I can see a future here. Yeah.
Good. I've seen there was a sign for us to wrap up. So, is there any final words that you may want to share?
I think following up the question, because it's complex, but it's also inspiring to think about it. I think there is a borderline for me to stay in Hong Kong or not is about the freedom of artistic expression. And once that is lost, I think I will need to move, but that is a necessity. So I think I hope that in Hong Kong still we have the freedom of artistic expression as well as freedom of speech, and to truly to live as a human being.
That. And Janet?
Well, all I can say is we all hope for the best for the freedom of artistic practice. And I think also is if a place can still offer you inspirations, I do think that is quite important, because if you lose all imagination toward a place, then you wouldn't be able to create a very strong and very movable work anymore. So let's just hope everyone still maintain that kind of passions and the place can still offer us this interest. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you to Rose
Kingsley.
and Janet.
Thanks.
And we can open up to to the floors or any online comments or questions, if there's any. If not, then well, have a good afternoon, everyone, and stay healthy.